Welcome to Weekly 52, my blog, podcast and YouTube channel about photography, creativity, art and the stories behind the images. I'm Thomas. For many years, I've been a regular guest at Gacilly-Baden Photo. This year, I'm especially happy to be here together with my co-host Domenica Pancevich at the grand opening of this wonderful festival. Together, we invite you to join us on a tour through the entire exhibition and discover its many highlights. The world's best photographers present fascinating images and inspiring stories in a unique 7-kilometre open-air gallery. The festival is free to visit and runs until October the 11th this year, here in beautiful Baden near Vienna. One of the most special moments is the meeting the legendary photographer Sir Don McCullin. He personally guides visitors through his own exhibition. He shares moving stories from more than 60 years behind the camera. His photographs show truth, humanity and compassion. But there's so much more to discover. Documentary photography, street photography, fashion, nature, historic images, and new perspective from artists around the world. Gacilly-Baden Photo is a celebration of photography, creativity, and humanity. Our heartfelt thanks go to the entire festival team, especially Lois Lammerhuber, his wife Sylvia Lammerhuber, Johanna Reitmeier, and Martin Ackerl. Thank you for creating this outstanding festival and for your dedication to photography. Now join us. We explore 7 kilometers of inspiring photography under the open sky. I'm Thomas from Weekly 52. Together with Domenica, we're delighted to share this special journey with you. Let's begin our tour.
Over and form a beautiful auditorium for one of the greatest legends in photography ever. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Sir Don McCullin and Dame Catherine Fairweather. So, welcome. Before we start, I have to take your wife to the side and to speak secretly with her. So, take your time. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Well, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Dame Catherine? Well, this is one of the maybe most historic moments in the history of photography. And it goes together with a man's presence in Baden who was part of photography since at least 70 years, as I learned yesterday. And Catherine will give us a little bit of details what you have heard this morning.
This morning we heard that Don was honoured, the Companion of Honour from the King, and he only awards it to 26 people. And Don is the first photographer to have been awarded the Companion of Honour by the King. He's already got an honour, which is why he is a Sir. He's very embarrassed. And I guess that makes me the Companion of Honour.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming here today. We weren't expecting. We were told it was going to rain all day today, and we couldn't be more kind of surprised with this stifling heat. But I'm now feeling that it's the English have been rather slow. This is an amazing way to display photography. And if I had my wish in life, I would ask if I could have an exhibition in Victoria Station in London or Paddington Station, where each day thousands of people make their way into town and go home to their families at night. And you get something like 100,000 people going through those railway stations, and you couldn't have a greater exhibition display anywhere in the world than in your own country in a big railway station. I mean, you've chosen the park here. And I on a day like this, I never thought in a million years one should exhibit in a park, and whoever comes to this park, they get a double pleasure. They get the pleasure of the park and the pleasure of, well, not so much me, Tony Ray Jones, maybe his exhibition, but I mean, it's a very wise thing for you to have created this festival, and it's even wiser of you to have invited me. So, anyway, I hope my pictures are quite hard to look at sometimes. I've never walked past a situation that I photographed that I've been ashamed of doing it. I've wanted you to feel ashamed if the world you live in the case of some of these people here. People shouldn't live like that, and they shouldn't be murdered in their countries and their towns and where they live. So I'm not making an apology for my work, but I know it's hard to digest my photography. But I started on a mission to say to you, your life is very privileged compared with what you're looking at in my photographs. I mean, I've been to many wars and seen many terrible, disgusting things. And I've made a reputation out of that, which is not comfortable for me. I mean, honors and things like that, they don't affect me. I accept them on behalf of my family, but those they don't affect me. I'm the same man that I started out when I was 23 years of age, when I first entered the family of photography. So I think that's enough said by me to you. Thank you for allowing me to be here, and I hope you'll look at my photography in the way it was meant to be looked at. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
I hate that beard.
Don, Sylvia and I invited on Tuesday to join the British ambassador at the garden party. Do you mind to mention your wish about Victoria Station? Do you mind if I mention your wish about an exhibition at Victoria Station?
Oh, please do.
Yeah. I do.
I think the railway station, 100, 200,000 people a day. I mean, you would get the message over, really. So it would be nice in my lifetime to have my wish, but I've never mentioned it before to anybody, only you.
So, and you will make it.
So you thank you that you have so much trust in me that I push it through.
Okay.
But I think with the ambassador, was unfortunately is departing from Vienna on Wednesday, I think she could be the one to make it happen.
She was an extraordinary woman. You don't see English ambassadors with that kind of warmth and sincerity. They're normally very standoffish, English ambassadors. And she's. Can somebody take my wife away in the in the mad van? Okay.
Well, thank you for all this, and I give you my word, from gentleman to gentleman, that I tried my very best to manipulate her and make it happen at Victoria Station.
And if you fail, hide.
Well, if I fail, you get a big bottle of red wine.
Oh, every day.
Every day, yeah. Continuously.
Now, may I look at my exhibition, please?
Yes, we can. This is a choice what we have for this afternoon.
Okay.
And we also would like to do a group photograph with all of us.
Okay, fine.
We have installed a pole somewhere here, and we form a circle.
Okay.
And then let's walk through your exhibition.
Okay.
In the meantime, when you have been absent, Denise Pellerin was texting with Sir Brian May.
Oh, yes.
And he texted back and to say hello to everyone.
Oh, okay.
And that he is very pleased what we do here.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, he certainly should be. Okay,
so where would you like to go first?
I don't know. Let's start on the gang, shall we? Because that's my first photograph in life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Carry that, Don. Hold that.
No, this gentleman's carrying this.
Yeah. I give you the mic because it's.
Okay. Fine. We'll go to the gang, I think. Which way are we going? Okay, so when I came out of the Royal Air Force for my military service, I brought back a Rolleicord camera, which is the kind of poorer member of the Rolleiflex family, because I couldn't afford and I wasn't very interested in photography when I came out of the Air Force. These are the boys. We occasionally went to school, and these are the boys who did terrible things in our society. They were bank robbers. This man spent 8 years as a bank robber. And this actual house was at the end of my street in North London. This is bomb damage from the Second World War. So one Sunday afternoon, I said to these boys, "Why don't you jump up there?" And I did. I took one negative of this picture. I've always been very stingy about using film. I think film was the most wonderful thing in the world, and I respected it enormously. And later on in my photographic life, when I was in wars and revolutions, I shot very slowly with film because I was always terrified of running out of film and missing the great pictures that would have come afterwards. So anyway, I photographed these boys. They were involved in a gang fight, and a policeman tried to stop this fight on a Sunday evening at the end of my street where this photograph was taken, and a policeman came to try and separate them, and another member of a gang who came to attack these people. I was with my young fiancée that night I wasn't there that night, thank God. However, the policeman was murdered at the end of my street. And the people where I worked in London said, "Why don't you take this photograph to the Observer newspaper?" And I did take the photograph and they said, "Did you take this photograph?" And I said, "Yes." And basically it was the very first photograph I ever took with this camera because I really wasn't a photographer. And he said, "Will you do more photographs?" And I said, "Yes." And they published my photographs on a Sunday morning a few months later. And I was offered every job in England, in television, in films, in theatre, everything. And I was really not a photographer. And I had to figure out what photography was all about. What was being offered to me was an extraordinary life. And I knew nothing about photography. I didn't have a brain on me. I was very uneducated. I was rather silly, young 23-year-old man, and so I had to do some quick thinking, and I started buying magazines and looking at the work of other photographers, and I met other young photographers. But most of all, I met an extraordinary photographer, a man called Bill Brandt, who was German. He came to England in the 30s, having suffered consumption and a dislike for the regime in the 30s in Germany, in Berlin. And he came to live in England, and he was an extraordinary photographer. He was it was always black and white photography in those days because color really hadn't got started. So Bill Brandt, you couldn't get any more kind of black and white than Bill Brandt. I mean, he printed his pictures incredibly dark, and I inherited his disease of printing dark pictures. And when I look at my work, I think maybe I've gone a bit too dark. But when you get in that dark room and you have chemistry and paper, you know, you're becoming a kind of circus boss. You know, you are directing that print you're making, and you're shoving all your emotion and your love and hate into that print. So I inherited Bill Brandt's darkness, and I carry it to this day. Even in my landscapes, when I do a landscape, people say, "We like your landscapes, but they seem to look like warscapes." But I even find that a compliment because it means I'm printing the right way. I'm getting people to feel my kind of energy and feel my darkness. So anyway, that's how I started my life. I'm indebted. All those boys now, they've all died, you know, because I've reached this kind of ridiculous age. But I learned nothing from those boys, but I learned an awful lot that day I took that picture. I was baptized with a future, which none of us had where we lived. We were really poor and stupid, and you know, we were even arrogant with our stupidity. That's the irony. But I found photography that day, and so let's talk about the other things here in this part. Thank you. This photograph of these West Indian men who lived a couple of doors down from where I lived. I lived in a tenement area where the buildings were layers of different families, and there was no conveniences. There were no indoor toilets or bathrooms didn't exist in where I grew up as a boy. and I photographed these men. You see, they always had a terrible thirst. And when I saw those bottles, I knew right away this was going to make my picture. It was the bottles that were going to speak the language of this, the way I think and see photography. And these men came to England with a warm-hearted attempt to kind of ingratiate England because they felt that England was their mother country. Would you dare to believe to be so naive? They came to England, and only a couple of decades ago, they were rejected, and they were told they weren't really had the right to live in England. When many of them worked in hospitals and did all kinds of extraordinary jobs, so we treated these people incredibly badly. They came to our country. They believed that their future and their whole life would improve. They came to our country, and 20, 30, 40 years later, they were still treated badly. And it's quite embarrassing in a way that, without these people, our hospitals in England would be in even worse state than they are today. So I want you to kind of look around the way my photographic life progressed with I don't know why, but I had it in my mind that when Robert Capa died in Indochina, he was the greatest war photographer, and he died in Indochina, and I thought to myself, there's a vacancy there, and I'm going to fill it. And I had this arrogant desire to become the best war photographer, which is really stupid. I used to say things and behave in a really stupid way when I was young, but I've learned to curtail my kind of idiot kind of past. But so I went to war in 1965. I went to Cyprus, where I did the last few months of my military service, and the civil war broke out in Cyprus between the Greeks and the Turks. And I went to Limassol, where my old RAF camp used to be, and I drove into the city, and I could hear gunfire, and the Turks arrested me. And they said, for your own good, you must spend a night in the prison, in the police prison cell. So they said, we're not going to lock the door. I said, that's fine with me. And I woke up in the morning and a bullet hit the iron railings of the cell I was sleeping in. And I thought, oh, good. It's still going on. Because when you're young, you don't realize that war is a really awful, wicked thing. You think it's very exciting as a young man and you want to prove yourself. And I wanted to do it. I mean, the one thing about photography is you bear a camera and not a weapon. And I'm very pleased to say I can go to my maker, whoever he or she is, and no, I've never killed another human being. But what I've done, I've intruded many, many times on other people's grief. And so I've always behaved myself in war. I've always behave with extreme dignity and extreme awareness of other people's suffering, because after all, I'm stealing from their pain even as a photographer, and I didn't really have the right to do that. I try to be invisible. I try to be caring. My biggest fear in life was being accused of doing the wrong thing and behaving badly and shamefully. So it's been a very fine line that you walk as a photographer in those situations. But I thought, I'm going to do it the best way and show other people how to do it. One day in Beirut, I was in a mental hospital which was being shelled by an Israeli gunboat. And the hospital was for mentally handicapped people, all kinds of people, old people, young children, and only one nurse stayed behind. And this hospital, they had 20 people killed in the hospital. One man sitting in bed was beheaded by a passing shell. So they had to tie the children to the beds because the children weren't wearing clothes because it was too hot. If you think today's hot, try Beirut in the summer. And so one nurse tied the children to the beds, and they were covered in flies, and they were dying of heat and thirst and hunger. And I had it all to myself to photograph this disgusting scene. And suddenly all the American television networks came in. And to give you an idea about bad behavior, you've never seen anything so appalling. These television people were treading on other people, pushing kids around and doing things like that. And I'd finished my work, and then I thought, I'm just going to leave quietly. a lot of journalists and people like that, they're all my brothers in our professional lives, but sometimes they don't always behave in a compassionate way. And all I've ever done in my life is speak for myself, behave the way I think you should behave. And I'm always looking over my shoulder that one day someone's going to come and say to me, as they did one day at the BBC. I went to the BBC to do a talk like I'm doing today, and the engineer in the recording studio said, I'm not going to stay here when that bastard comes in because he earns money by photographing war. And quite honestly, I did, but I earned the same amount of money as every other journalist on the Sunday Times newspaper. But by and large, I've never really had the accusations that probably could be still leveled at me. So I've only got a few years to live, and I might get away with it.
Tell them about your new Vietnam book.
Yes. Oh, yes. I'm after I leave here, I'm going to Venice to print a book on the Vietnam War, and it was the biggest war going in those days. And you had carte blanche when you went to photograph it, and you could do what you want. And I'm doing this, but people persuade me to do things I sometimes don't want to do. I mean, I think enough has been said about the Vietnam War, but I've made the mistake of agreeing. So can I talk about these pictures, please? Yeah, yes. This soldier here has been shot in the back of his bottom, and the bullets come out of his groin and thigh. It was what they call friendly fire, would you dare to believe? I've never thought there was such a thing as friendly fire. I know, it's okay. Don't do what Mariella does. I've never thought friendly fire was friendly in the first place. Every bullet is a kind of terrible experience. And the man on the left got killed 2 days later. He was a medic, an American Marine medic. He got killed, and his death actually brought down the whole company. They lost 40 men in this battle, in the Battle of Hue in the city of northern city of Vietnam. But the day that man on the left, that they called him Doc, was killed, the whole Marine company I was with went into meltdown. They had such respect for this man. I saw him killed. I was lying watching him being killed by a sniper. The man in question came to me, and I carried him away from this battle on my shoulders because I was quite strong when I was young. And he wrote his mother a letter and said, this strange man came out of nowhere and carried me away, this strange Englishman. He went back to Vietnam a few months later and got shot in the lung with another bullet, but still survived the war. Every time I press the button of my photography, there is more than just a picture involved. There is a story involved. There's a human experience, a human life concerning him, his family, all kinds of. It goes on and on and on, the story. So, in a way, I think I would like to look upon myself more of a historian than a photographer, because that's what I'm doing. I'm recording history. Behind you, there's a picture of Kurdish family fleeing the war under Saddam Hussein. The Kurds have always been incredibly badly treated in our world. Yeah. But none of us would love to wake up one day and have to flee our homes, as war does to people. And it's still going on today in Beirut and places like that. So, but I mean, I look upon this as almost as a kind of painting in the Middle Ages. It's like a kind of a Renaissance painting by. It's the beauty of the people as well. I mean, they're suffering, but they don't realize it, how beautiful they look, even in their suffering. I see, when I'm photographing, I see things that other people can't feel or see. And I think that's what makes my photography have a meaning. I'm trying to give a meaning for what I'm doing and justify the kind of liberty that I'm taking with other people's lives. And most of all, of course, I'm intruding on their pain and their. I would like to draw your attention to this young boy. He must have been 18, 19 years of age. These North Vietnamese soldiers, they almost look like young children. And he was killed in this battle, and some American soldiers came and they were looking for souvenirs. Strange enough, his belt around his waist, was one of the most prized possessions because they liked the belt buckle. They went through all his possessions, and they threw them down on the floor, and they walked away, and they addressed him as a gook, which is an insult to the kind of Vietnamese nation. And when they went away, I thought, I'm going to become his voice. I'm going to show people exactly what this man carried, me 1,000 kilometers from North Vietnam down to where this picture was taken. And I thought to myself, every American soldier in the field has 7 or 8 people to get him there, to feed him, to take ammunition. That man's possessions was his medical kit down in the left-hand corner, if you wouldn't mind, just that bit there. And there was a picture of either his mother, his sister, it wasn't the first time I'd seen possessions of North Vietnamese soldiers. They were very concerned all the time about their mothers. They were always writing letters to their mothers. And it was incredibly heartbreaking to see those soldiers went away laughing about this man. I thought, this man, it's his country. This war should never have started. It was always a bad thing from the word go. But I was trying to speak for this boy. A bullet went through his teeth and took the back of his head out. And I found him one day because I was sleeping nearby in a tin shack, and I decided one day to go out the other way, and I came across his body, and there was rainwater in his eyes, which are open. I know every detail about these kind of things I was involved in. And it was the rainwater in his eyes, as if those eyes were looking at me and speaking to me. And by the way, I'm not mad. I never lost my sanity, but I was very involved with thinking that way, thinking one was more than a photographer. To get these pictures, you had to have a special way of looking at what you were doing. And I don't know how I inherited this feeling about what I was doing and my whole life. I don't know how it was me that was given this opportunity to do this and think like this and talk like this. Because I left school at 15 with no education. I grew up with those ignorant boys. All we ever did was talk about bad things in life and how we could hurt other people. I don't know where I am now. Oh, here. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I've always said that it wouldn't be worth common sense to take a photograph and get the exposure wrong. And so I knew this man was going to throw this grenade because they were feeding him grenades. So I popped up with my Gossen Lunasex meter, took a picture and bent down again. And then I knew he was going up for another throw, and I got it. The exposure was right. Everything was sharp and things. But I always said that I didn't want to get killed for a photograph that was badly exposed. And that's why I always use an exposure meter, almost for every picture I ever took in my life. And those kind of I'm not a technician, by the way. I don't even know how to switch a computer on. I don't use a mobile phone like other people. I have the oldest mobile phone in the world. It looks like an adding up machine. So my life is visually here. It's not with technology, and I have to pay other people to download my digital photographs now. So shall we move on? Sorry, that one. This one here. This is where I grew up, and I lived in a tenement building. We had two rooms at the bottom of the tenement, and I would have to go to bed at night and pass 2 other flats of people to get to my bedroom. This is what I saw when I looked out. I had a brother, and we slept in this bedroom, and this is what we saw on a winter's day. This is where they used to keep horses. And when I was a young boy in London, there was still quite a large horse community. And it was wonderful to see great Shire horses, massive great beasts, who were very 10 times, 20 times stronger than the men who looked after them. But they were quite docile and nice. And they would take those horses back there at night to bed them down for the night. And there was a blacksmith. But this is the picture that really pleases me, because this is a young girl in a city in Bradford in England, which is a terrible Dickensian city in the north of England, and she's taking her mother the family laundry past this scrapyard. And I mean, everything, I mustn't use the word really, but everything for me complimented that picture, because that sweet smile of that lovely girl taking the family laundry in that homemade cart past that deluge of awfulness in the background. I sometimes ask myself, what does this picture really mean? What am I trying to say? But frankly, nothing. All I'm trying to say is, would you like to go to school like that in the morning as a young child? And the answer, of course, is certainly not. But the people in the north of England have always suffered much greater poverty than the people who live in the south of England. They've always been the one who paid the price of poverty, and they were always the ones who initially, early in the Industrial Revolution, made England a great country. They did all the hard work. They produced all the mining, the coal and the steel, and they were always looked down upon, really. Today, you can't get away with that because the wokeism would or the influences would cancel you for even thinking like that. So we are improving our way of treating each other in our societies, thank God. I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm trying to talk about this picture here because I've been all over the world showing other people's. You wouldn't believe that in 1971, we chucked out a hell of a lot of handicapped people from our mental institutions, and we chucked them out without their medication. And if you went to one of the great landmarks in England, where there's an amazing church called in Spitalfields, it was built by a man called John Hawksmoor, who actually was the assistant of Christopher Wren, who built St Paul's Cathedral. You would have found dozens and dozens of men sleeping by fires in this great market where they sold vegetables. And I particularly, I have to use the word like, but I'm fond of this picture because it reminds me of something. I call this picture men sleeping while standing. And only one other animal does that kind of thing. It's a horse. And it's amazing, these three men, and we've always sometimes stood and felt that, and then if we think we're going to fall over, we do that. I think ahead when I'm photographing, but there's nothing more tragic than to see a man who's reached that point of his life, total destitution, no friends, no hope, nowhere to go, sleeping in the street at night in the winter. And I thought, we were once one of the most powerful nations in the world, England, and if we couldn't do better for our citizens than that, this was during the Margaret Thatcher period, and everybody thought it was such a great time. Margaret Thatcher, she pulled us together and treated us like nanny. But frankly, England was not a great place. The one in the middle was where I grew up as a boy. You can see the atmosphere of poverty in this picture. The boys boxing and the rubbish in the street. The last picture here is a steel town in England, and England now has hardly any steel industry at all, and we were one of the great industries for steel, and these are people in a steel town that's since been wiped away. So what I'm saying about my country is we were a once great nation, possibly like the Romans, really, and as an old imperial kind of colonial people, once you lose it, it starts going very quickly, and you lose everything else with it, yourselves, them, all the kind of resources you stole from them, and all the the whole thing. So I'm talking like this because I'm not an academic person, but photography has just brought me into focus a bit about myself. And our friend at the top there, the big portrait of the man in the distance, I call him Neptune because he looks like the Roman god Neptune, and it looks as if he's submerged in the sea because of his hair. And he was one of the fire sleepers in this place in London, and I've never seen a more beautiful man. And he was completely mentally handicapped without medication. And I took a lot of photographs. He never flinched one bit when I photographed him. I thought any moment he might get up and try to assault me. But he didn't. But you see, the reason he didn't was he was incapable. He was he was another gone man who, in his mind, had, had left us really. And so, sorry. Sorry?
How close have you been?
I used to be boringly technical, I used a 1.3 short telephoto lens. I like the idea of having a comfortable distance, because sometimes people do try to hit you. And I've never been here. Only once in my life in Beirut, I got hit by a woman, and she really hit me. She made up for all the other hits I'd missed. I got a really good beating from this woman. She came round the corner, and an Israeli bomb had collapsed the apartment building where she lived with others and her family who were still inside. She went completely, she was beating her face, and I made the mistake of being too quick. I photographed it, and she saw me, and she came, and I've never taken such a good hiding, which I probably deserved, really. You know, but it was only because my professionalism made me take that picture, and I regret it bitterly to this day. And to end this little story, I went back to my hotel, and I was quite shaken, and I ordered a coffee in my hotel, and a man came in and said, "That woman." I said, "No, don't talk to me, leave me alone." He said, "No, I've got to tell you, a car bomb's gone off and blown her completely down the road and killed her." So, you know, I did an essay once with a man called Colonel Capa, who ran a big photographic thing in New York called ICP, and I called it The Uncertain Day. And that's what photography is like. You wake up in the morning, you think, I'm going to do this and do that. You don't know what's in store for you, as much as the people you photograph don't know. So I think I should come to an end, but may I just point this photograph? This is Bradford, where the girl with the laundry came from. It was one of those great Victorian cities that made its fortunes on wool. And wool has gone out of fashion because of climate change, I think. But anyway, these industrial landscapes, they would only work if you had a human being in them to show their I mean, it was a really terrible place. You know, people take their rubbish and they dump it, and England's become an incredibly shabby place, and, you know, garbage everywhere. But for a photographer, of course, it's like caviar. You know, you see all the ingredients that you know will make a good picture, and you take advantage. And it's not about greed. It's not about wrong intentions. It's the way you respond when you put your eye to that viewfinder. All you dream of is the perfect composition, the perfect timing, the perfect everything. So not guilty for the rubbish. Can I just point, without moving, where the ladies are standing there? It's in the steel town of Hartlepool in northern England. Once again, it was in 1963. I got in my car and drove 300 miles to this town, and it was one of the coldest winters in England, and I was very poor. I couldn't afford a hotel, so I slept in the back of my car, and I woke up in the morning and I couldn't feel my legs. And I had a bottle of, it was like Coca-Cola, but it was completely frozen. And I saw this scene, and I thought, my God, that's amazing. That's definitely a photograph, but I need a person. And I waited. And if you're a patient, like most photographers have to be, around the corner came that man. And I took one negative of this picture, and I got in my car, and I was so excited about what I'd photographed. One negative. Today, a photographer would have done a whole roll of film. And I got in my car, and I drove down the road, and I crashed into a local bus. And I was really depressed. I thought, don't worry, you got this great picture. And I drove 300 miles back to London, knowing I had this great picture. And I was so tired, I was putting my head out the car so that the cold air would keep me awake, which is very scandalous. Photographers are mad, you know. They're quite insane, some photographers. I know quite a few of them. They're totally off of their minds. But what photography does, it makes you sometimes irresponsible. You'll go that last step. One last thing. I went to Cambodia in 1971, and I had a great friend called Gilles Caron, and he was a French photographer, and we were very competitive. He got there 1 week before me, and he vanished, never to be seen again, and he was murdered by the Khmer Rouge. We were very competitive people, and in his haste to get there before me, poor Gilles vanished with 16 other journalists. that week. 16 journalists vanished, and the Khmer Rouge murdered every one of them. So is the price of photography worth your life? Is it worth risking your life as we did? And looking back, I get the shivers really thinking, why did I do that? You know, I wound up in a prison once and got another good belting from drunken African soldiers in Uganda. And I thought, this has got nothing to do with photography. I think I've said enough now.
Don, my deepest respect.
It's a brilliant, I mean, I love the way you've done all this. It's very appealing. Every time I look around, I catch myself again.
The National Geographic photographer Gerd Ludwig.
Sorry?
The National Geographic photographer Gerd Ludwig, he went 10 times to Chernobyl into the reactor number 4.
Yes.
And he started to do it at the age after 60.
Yeah.
And I asked him one day, Gerd, why did you do that?
Yeah.
And he said, because someone has to do it.
Yeah.
Maybe this is...
I didn't have to do it. I discovered really very cunningly that I cottoned on to an amazing lifestyle. It was very exciting for me. And in the end, I had to stop the feeling of excitement. And I had to start saying, hang on a minute. This is not about you. It's not about you getting your rocks off here. It's about you representing yourself in another way because you've got another duty here. It's not about you. And luckily, I had the sense to control myself. But I was married to a family of little children, and when I went away, they would wave goodbye to me, and I would see them standing waving, and I would think to myself, they must have thought what a silly man I was, you know, that I was really putting them at risk by not coming home like Gilles Caron. He had a family. We were very selfish people. We only thought that we were the most important people, even in our marriages. It was a huge mistake, a huge mistake. But at the age of 90, I've wised up a bit now. So, okay, I'm going home now.
Please join us. The next old man. No, the old man too. We are 3 old men here.
3 old men.
Yeah.
81.
And but we take center stage, so nothing to worry. Christian was one of the most talented photographers ever. It hurts me to say this because I'm jealous.
Yeah.
He was 16, 17. He photographed for Vogue at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
And later he photographed.
18.
He photographed a little later the Beatles. He knew them before even they did this show, and he stopped photography at the age of.
I'm sorry.
You stopped photography at the age of 21 or 22.
These
No, you stopped photography.
So it was 20 years. With 20 I stopped. And since 20 I didn't make professional photos anymore.
Okay.
So my last photos I made 61 years ago.
And after that he went on to win Oscars.
Yes.
Technical Oscars, but anyway. This is your story.
Technically Oscar.
Yeah. But in between he met these guys, these famous guys we have in our company most of the days, the Beatles in Oberdauern at the time when the Beatles have been famous, but not so much in Oberdauern.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Christian Skrein.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, Britons and friends, and for instance, my Austrian friends. I'm Austrian, and so as you're here, my English is Austrian. I really don't know what to tell about this Beatles photography story. Maybe I tell you some small stories how it begins. Begins in Hamburg, in the Star Club, and I was there with friends. Believe it or believe it not, what friends were there. It was Christo, it was Josef Beuys, and others. And I was the young guy with the camera. Yeah, with the Leica from my father at that time. And the Beatles, they played always when new guys, probably in the same age, they always made a game. So sometimes they made a game when they would find it is worthful to make a game. And they made the game winner and loser. And I was there, sitting there, and the Beatles, they were not very famous at this time. And I also didn't know what is going on, but they made the winner and loser game, and I was a winner. And so they said, manager was also there from the Beatles, and then they said, yeah, and this guy we want to have as a photographer by help. Yeah, for me it was railroad, so I didn't know what happened, and I was interested in fun. Yeah, not so much in photography, but also in photography, of course. And so I was the official press photographer for the Help Beatles film, Beatles movie. And these are the photographs beside this. We lived in the same hotel, room to room, and had a lot of fun. You know, I said it already, when it was 1970, I was 20 years old and I stopped photography at all. And what did I did next? So this is always the question. Next, I was filmer. I was the most time in Hollywood, but here not. I was an advertising filmer, not a real filmer. I did the small short pictures, the little ones for Coca-Cola and so on. What is a little bit funny, because when you do a film and also advertising, then you have a script book, of course. But anyhow, you have always to know these guys at that film, they never looked in a script book. I even, until today, I never saw one, but they had one, because there was the script girl and the things and the team and many people, 100 people's film always is, and everything, no script, and nobody looked at it. Nobody did not. Also the director said, "Oh my God, what do you say?" And that's how this film was made, and that's also this film how it looks. It is. So there are lots of better films I saw in my life, and so and I was proud, said, "No, this is a good film. This is great," because I did the photos and so on. This was one of the stories, and then stories, and then an other thing that happens was what you as colleagues, as photography colleagues, are maybe interested in. And I think the photo is not here. And so I think I tell you about the photo what is not exhibited here. I think so. It comes up in Obertauern, where the film was made, that these guys, they are famous. And also the crew from the hotel, they said, yeah, they live here in our hotel and so on. Don't speak with me, but I think it was so, because one photo I did, and this was in Austria, very published, and it was called "Cooks on the Deck on the Roof." So you know the films and so on, where there's cooks on the roof. It was in different magazines. The cooks in their break, they went on the roof to the window where they they think or where they thought that the Beatles are living, and look to live and to see them, because and this is the funny thing. When you think a little bit forward, a cook sees never the guests. So, but in the break, they went to the window looking. They anyhow weren't in, because it was time to make the new movie. They came always late. Everyone. The most late came the director. Everyone was there, and they make already the second or third break, and then they start with no break script. Another story I wanted to tell. It's don't know in English. It's I had it in my mind. This Cooks on the Dead. This was really very funny. The Beatles, and I'm Austrian, yeah, and so I tell you an Austrian story. And the Austrian story is never the Beatles made a concert in Austria. So this is famous. But be careful, they made one. And they made one, and it was so. In the opposite of this hotel was a bar, a nightclub, and we are in 65. So it was not so as bars are looking today. So everything was put with here's a wood, and there is some money paper on the back and so on. This looks like in the 50s, because we are also not in the center of Vienna or Paris or so. We are up in the mountain, 2,000 meter high, and there's also a bar. And so this bar looks. They had a small, or they had some people who said, we are the band here. I don't know them, but they made noise, and that it was. And one night, I think it was the second night up there in Overtown on the mountain, we went over to have a drink or something. I have to say that it's funny also, I was photographer, then I was filmer, and I never drank in my life, so I drank only Coca-Cola, and I always went to bed at 6 or 7 or 8. Also in younger age, I worked on the day, and then I said, yeah, no, I want to. Today, as a retired, the same, but now I do television, of course. So this is the end of a guy like me. We went in this bar, all together and funny and so drunken, these guys, and else things, I don't know what, people tell lots of stories, and then they start making a concert. The bar is called Marietta. It was the Marietta, and it is now in the history that the Beatles made a concert, made a band thing in the Marietta, Obertauern, on the 17th March, 1965. Yeah, the photographer, very famous guy, also old as me, told you lots of stories, 1 hour, and I think I'm short, but if you liked, you have a question, and I will answer your questions. I would have at least as stories for 1 hour about all this time, and yeah, I want to thank you also, Lois, that I'm proud. Thank you that I can be here, and thank you that you chose also me and put my photographs here in the green. Thank you.
Mr. Peter Dench.
Hello, I'm Peter Dench, your pre-sausage entertainment. While we're granting wishes today, my wish is to have an outdoor exhibition at Weymouth bus station, if you can add that to the list.
Okay. Thank you. I try.
According to the Taxman, I've been a photojournalist since 1998. During that time, I've had the privilege to work on assignment in over 65 countries across the globe, covering everything from the conflict in Ukraine to the rebuilding of Iraq to amputees in Liberia. But it is towards England that I consistently point my lens. It's my home, it's my passion, and the English are the people that I want to understand most, and they're more affordable to photograph. The kind of upbringing I had was in a working class seaside resort. You left the beach smelling of cigarettes. The cocktails all tasted of bubble gum, and people wore t-shirts that said sex, drugs, and sausage rolls. During the summer, the population tripled. There was a lot of shagging. There was a lot of fighting. I had a nice time. Compare that to what I saw on television, cricket, the pomp and pageantry of the royal family, posh schools, Ascot, Eton, all of that. I was confused. So I knew from quite an early age that, I wanted to make a visual contribution to the history of this great nation. And, how do you go about that? The pictures you see here today, the first one was taken in 2002. I think the most recent one, probably 2022. So you've got kind of, a gradual build-up of that. And what you'll see is I still can't come to terms with whether I'm a coward or a brave photographer, because I just chase primary colours. And again, I attribute that to growing up by the seaside. And the first things I saw were deck chairs and bumper boats and the arcade and the red arrows. I can't see in black and white. A great mentor of mine, Tom Stoddard, said, Peter, he's from Newcastle, if you photograph a woman in a yellow dress, all you see is the yellow dress. But if you photograph her in black and white, you see her soul. And I said, nonsense, Tom. I just see a picture without colour. And I think we all take photographs in colour today because that's what you're supposed to do. But I think it's difficult to get right, so I am a deliberate colour photographer. It matters to me. And I think it's quite tricky to deal with, along with humour. What was funny before Brexit, what was funny 15 years ago, sometimes isn't funny today. So, you have to tread that line of, what's sort of politically acceptable, as a photographer, So people sometimes flippantly refer to me as, that funny English guy, but I do take what I do, very seriously. You'll see a lot of pictures of royal events here, and I'm not a fan of the royal family. I look to France with misty eyes and what they did historically. I think my knighthood has passed. The way I see the role of the royal family in England is like, having a vintage Rolls Royce that you bring out on special occasions. You buff it up, you parade it around, and then you wheel it back into the garage, at its best. So, hopefully I'll be let home. But yeah, so what you'll see as you look around this exhibition, and I'm really grateful to be here for Louis and Sylvia to host this show, and Cyril, who kind of initiated it. And I've completely lost my train of thought. Yeah. but yeah. So what I want you to see is it's not the definitive version of England, of course. It's my visual contribution, and I don't know yet whether that contribution is a footnote, a paragraph, or a chapter. History will decide. And I told this story in La Gacilly, but I always, I'm stood here because I don't know if Don's here, but this is his favourite picture from the exhibition. And, I did once suggest to Don that we should do a book together and travel around England. And, I said it would Dench and Don do England, and he didn't dismiss it, but he leaned in and said, Peter, of course it would have to be Don and Dench. And of course he was right. Enjoy your sausages.
May I add something? Maybe as far what I've seen from you so far, it's not a paragraph, and it's not a chapter either. I guess it's a really great, brilliant book. Thank you very much.
And now. Yeah, so I'm going to talk now a bit about freediving and photography, I guess. My name is Christin Gerstorfer, and I'm a professional freediving athlete. I'm in the Austrian national team and one of the deepest women of Austria. And I have the incredible opportunity to be part of this photo festival with pictures of my freediving career over the years. For those who don't know freediving, freediving is diving with a single breath, without the help of any oxygen tanks or any equipment besides, as we see, wetsuit, fins, a weight belt. But the weight belt is not there to make me sink. The weight belt is there that I'm neutrally buoyant at a certain depth, and I'm gonna swim the whole way down and up with my own body strength. So I'm not gonna be pulled down by any artificial device. So basically, this is freediving. Happens normally in depths. As we see, we dive down as deep as we can go. Or in the pool, which is going to be distance diving or dynamic, or even the breath hold in itself. It looks kind of funny. We lay like bodies floating in the water, on the surface of the water, and hold the breath for as long as we can. Yeah. These pictures, most of them are taken in the ocean. Except these two, they are taken in the Austrian lake, Duisitz-Gassee in Styria. With Bergwelten and Red Bull Media House by Marko Mastrovic. Was a really cool issue of the newspaper where we just hiked and went into mountain lakes and dived. We had the lead weights and the monofin strapped to our back and hiked up this mountain. This was kind of, I don't want to swear now, but it was exhausting for sure. Versus these two pictures, actually these two were taken last year at the World Championships. What is the World Championships in freediving? As you can see, I try to dive down to a certain depth, which is my maximum is between 75 and 80 meters. For people who maybe don't know, we have here an atmospheric pressure of 1 bar, 1 atmosphere. So the atmosphere pushing down on us. At 10 meters of water, we have 1 bar more. So that means we have surface 1 bar and 10 meter 1 bar. And every 10 meters adds 1 bar. So that means 80 meters is 9 bar of pressure, 9 atmospheres. A car tire has 2.5, 2.8 bar of pressure, and it's like pretty heavy, pretty dense, right? So this pressure is pressing on my airfield cavities, my lungs, my sinuses, and I need to learn how to manage this pressure, how to equalize this pressure, especially in my ears. And that's what makes, beside the breath hold, of course, freediving to depths very, very challenging. But yeah, I love it. It's like, if people ask me, what is freediving, or how do I describe it? It's like, for me, meditation in movement underwater, in limitless freedom. This beautiful medium water, like being 200 meters deep in the water in just the blue, is just a feeling which is otherworldly, which is just like humbling, where you really connect with yourself and your body, and where the water is a mirror, where the mirror shows you your traumas, it shows you your fears, but it shows you also how strong you are and what your body and your mind is capable of. And that's what got me into freediving when I was actually between 6 and 8 years old, I taught it to me myself because I wanted to be a mermaid. And now, my little Christine, looking back to me, I'm a full-time mermaid now. So, yeah. These two pictures were taken by Kostas Konstantinos, a photographer from Limassol, from Cyprus, during the World Championships with my monofin. As you can see, there are different disciplines. We have freediving with the monofin, like a mermaid, pulling down on the rope and with the arms. Then we have bifins, which are 2 long fins. And then we have also no fins, which is the challenging discipline where we swim down with our own body strength. We don't have a picture here yet, but yeah, I can tell it's exhausting. This picture was taken by Yesin, a good friend of mine in the Philippines, where I was wearing a mermaid tail for the first time in my whole life. It was 2023. And I tell you, it's not easy to swim with that. But yeah, one of my favorite memories, also the colors of the cave were really impressive. Yeah, World Championships, both of those, Dan Verhoeven, really well-known underwater photography in the world of freediving, and Luke Coley as well. Here you can see a little minion. This is the Dive Eye, which live streams the World Championships in television and also online on YouTube. So everybody who wants can put in either freediving World Championships and rewatch what we guys do. There are people who dive to 140 meters of depths. And so I'm quite young in this scene. I hold 14 Austrian national records and became almost 7th place of World Championships last year at my first one. But there's a way to go. Yeah. And here, again, the Philippines, this is a ground jellyfish. They are not very stingy, but they are beautiful to look at. In the background, they are floating several of those. And yeah, they're huge. Like those, you see my face and you see the jellyfish. It's a big jellyfish. And also this one, I do a lot of underwater modeling besides freediving in competition because I really want to emphasize also the beauty, the feminine, the creative side of the sport, not just the records or the misconceived image of we dive down and risk our lives, which is actually not really true. We have always safety divers. You can see the guys here who accompany us on the way up. And there was one death in freediving competition who had a heart issue. So actually people who die, unfortunately, dive alone, as also in scuba diving. And the other risks are actually not that high. The whole system can be pulled up. And so we're not risking our lives, but we just want to see what the human body, the human mind is capable of, and challenge ourselves with that. And with the underwater modeling, I get back also the creative side, what you can do. For example, love walking on the surface. This is like the water surface, so I'm like upside down. And I teach also together with underwater photographers how to model underwater. It's like challenging. You have to adjust your buoyancy. You have to know how much breath do I need to have in my lungs. How do I not sink? What do I do with my hair? I mean, with mine it's quite easy, but like, with long hair or with the dress or how is the body tension? Then I have to look nice and hold my breath. This is not so easy. And really, the honor of this photography really goes to the photographers. This is by my friend Albert Buxade from Spain, and was also in the Philippines, these two. So yeah, this is about these photographies, and also maybe about me and what my also goal here for Austria is like I want to inspire more people for the sport, but not about records, not about diving deep in the sense of, but what mental and physical benefits this sport can have, because the breath, as you could all see, is our foundation, and this is even emphasized with the water, and it helped me out of burnout. It helped me out of many situations in my life, and it's just such an incredible sport that I also have projects to bring more and more into the schools for children. I teach also children a lot with team building and leadership, of course, and I have my own school here in Baden and in Austria. I run a school in the Philippines as well in the cold season, and yeah, I just want to inspire more people to try out this amazing sport and learn mental strengths and body strengths, and yeah, just have these amazing experiences underwater. Any questions? I'm happy. Otherwise, this is from my side, and thanks for participating in the exercise. Yeah.
had the crazy idea to use fish to measure environmental contamination. So a fish became an instrument. That's simple, isn't it, Guenter? Guenter Koeck, are you around? The title of his exhibition is called High Arctic. And you might wonder, why do we have exhibitions about non-photographers? This is why last year the UNESCO announced the Year of the Water. And of course, we did think about what can we contribute to make people aware of the importance of water. And therefore, we have a lot of expertise here, photographic expertise, but also scientific expertise, because it really goes along hand in hand and cannot exist with each other to give proof to the people, to the society, what it means to take care about our water, because without water, and you heard it last night by Helmut Habersack, and he will speak to us a little later again, what it means, what we have ahead. So please welcome Mr. Guenter Koeck, who kind of, he tortures fish to tell us about the environmental.
We don't torture them.
You kill them.
We kill them. Thank you very much, Lois, for the introduction. Well, I try to save some time. I think we are running quite late, and as a scientist, we are used to that because every scientific conference is running late, so you always have to save time. So, but it's important to thank Lois and his team for the invitation to this photo festival. It's not very common for a scientist to be invited to a world-class photo festival. So I feel really honored, and I like it very much to have this display behind me. So what we are doing in the project, I have invented the project in 1997, and it's still running. So it's almost 30 years of a constant running project, which is a sensation. Many of you know that usually the running time of a scientific project is about 3 years, and then it has to stop. You have to deliver a report, and then you have to apply for a new project. But our project is running since 30 years. And what we study is the effects of climate change in Canadian Arctic lakes by using one fish species as a measuring instrument, or as we say in the science community, as a bioindicator. And it's only one fish species we use. It's Salveninus alpinus. It's in English, it's Arctic char, and for German-speaking people, Seesaibling. Everybody knows it because people say it's the best-tasting fish in Austria we have. And maybe, well, I try to save some time, but I explained it very briefly. On the left side, you see the Gossenkölle. This is a high mountain lake in Tyrol, which also bears in the background. You can see the research station of the University of Innsbruck. This is the place where I started my project, and this was the beginning of the project, because in the late 1980s, early 1990s, maybe you know that it was the heydays for environmental toxicologists. I am one with special education fish biology. All the rivers in Austria were polluted by heavy metals, the Inn River by Swarovski, you know, and by paper mills and so on. And we were the first group in Innsbruck to getting interested how the pollution affects fish. And we changed human methodology for fish biology. So we do histology, we do blood investigations. My part have been the heavy metals. And if you study heavy metals, you have to know what's the heavy metal content of a clean fish, of a fish from clean waters. And we were thinking high mountain lakes. It's a pristine water, so there's no pollution, nothing. And we went to high mountain lakes in Tyrol. We investigated about 5, 6, 7 lakes, and it was a complete sensation to see that the heavy metal content in the fish was much higher than in the polluted rivers in the lowlands, in river and so on. And of course, we were studying it, we were thinking about it, and then we realized quite quickly that the temperature, the water temperature in the summertime is the trigger. So I developed the idea, if we would have the chance to study Arctic lakes, which is a very similar ecosystem. Arctic lakes, high mountain lakes, they are frozen almost the entire year. They are ice-free only in the summertime for 2.5 months. So it's a very similar ecosystem. So if we had the chance to do studies there, we could develop something like a global biomonitoring system of the effects of climate change on lake ecosystems. And I would say the lucky punch is that in both ecosystems, in Tyrolean high mountain lakes and in Canadian Arctic lakes, we have the same fish species, which is Arctic char. Arctic char is usually is normally an Arctic fish species, and it survived in the deep Austrian lakes and in the high mountain lakes as a remaining of the last ice age. And to study the pollution of lakes in terms of heavy metals is not really trivial, because different fish species treat heavy metals differently. So you cannot study a carp in Austria and the Arctic char in Canada, and then you say this river or lake is polluted or not. So it's not complicated. But in this case, we have the lucky situation that we can use one fish species to compare ecosystems which are thousands of kilometers apart. And we started in 97 with a very small project. It was 100,000 Austrian shillings from the Ministry of Science, and I called up my colleagues in Canada. So we started to do it, and it's running since then. And I don't want to bother you with our results. It's just a short sentence. Climate change is there. It's very clear. It's very strong, and we can show the effects of climate change on fish populations. This is very clear. And what I should say is that the data series we have, 30 years, is unique in the world. There's no other research group which has such a long data series, because we take the samples every year. And this is important when you talk about climate. If you just have 3 years, we are talking about weather. But if you want to talk about climate effects, you have to study it for 10, 15, 20 years. And now we have 30 years. So this is really great. But what I want to focus on, a few sentences to conclude, is what was the success of the project? Because as I said before, it's 30 years running every year. This is really a sensation. And there are maybe 3 things. First of all, we have a wonderful team with an excellent team spirit. So there's no jealousy, nothing. Everybody can publish data from the other colleagues without asking. So there's an exchange of data. And the second is this guy. This is my colleague and Canadian project leader, Derek Muir, who came in 1 year after I started the project. And he made the little project we had at that time to a really big international collaboration project. The reason is quite simply, he was the director of the most important Canadian water research institute, and Canada has 70% or even more of its country is Arctic. So the interest of Canada in Arctic research is much higher than in Austria. It was extremely difficult to organize the funding in Austria. Helmut knows it very well. But Derek was in the right position, and he brought in big money, and he is actually responsible that this project became a really big project lasting for 30 years. And maybe most emotional point, as I explained it to Paola, she is somewhere here, is that that we started to cooperate with the local Inuit people from the very beginning. To do research in the Arctic, you need lots of permits from the government and from different organizations, from the Inuit organizations. We had these permits, of course, so we could go there, do our research, run away. But we didn't do that. So we cooperated with the Inuit people. We informed them regularly about the results, because the focus of our research project is mercury. That's the only heavy metal which accumulates in the food web. And societies like the Inuit people, they live from fish, from walrus, from seal meat, seal fat, and all their traditional food is heavily contaminated with mercury and persistent organotoxicants. So they're extremely interested. Can we eat fish, seal, and so on? And that's why we have involved them. And the most important person in the project is not me. I have invented it, but is the lady on the very right side in the picture with the red shirt, Debbie Ikaluk. She is a local from Resolute Bay. Ikaluk, by the way, means fish. She's an excellent fisherman, and in 1997, when we came up, we had no idea which lake should we choose, because we need a special type of fish population. We need Arctic char, which stay their entire life in the lake and are not migrating between land and sea like salmon, as they usually do. Because if we don't take this so-called landlocked population, we cannot compare it to Austrian high mountain lakes, because they are, of course, landlocked. And it's extremely important to have to include the traditional knowledge of Inuit people. And Debbie was the first one. So in 1997, when she started, she had still her traditional clothes. Maybe you know it from TV and from pictures. They have their babies in the backside in a big bag on their back. And her son Pilipusi was at that time maybe 1.5 years old. And she is working in the project every year with us. Her son now is, I think, 23, 24 years old, and he started to work in the project with 14 or 15 years. So it's a family, and the Inuit people are really involved in the project. We don't pay them. We pay them, of course, but they are not workers. So they are friends. They work with us and provide the traditional knowledge, which is essential for our project. So please give an applause for the local population. It's extremely important. So I think that was a brief summary of the project. If you want to know more, check the internet. I have a website which describes the entire project. And again, thank you very much to Lois for the invitation.
Ask him at dinner. So we turn just around to the other side and listen to a man you know very well. In the meantime, Harald Hordosch. Laurent Bellesta will here be only in October. He is currently at the fish, of course, but Laurent would not be there and he could not do what he does without this man. Without Harald, Laurent Bellesta would not have become Laurent Bellesta in the way he is today, because he needs, of course, technical support. And this comes from Harald Hordosch and his inventions and his companies. Welcome, Mr.
Thank you very much, Lois. It is a great honor for me to be here in the name of Laurent. Laurent, who is this guy? Laurent is an underwater photographer since more than 20 years. And in my opinion, he is the Cousteau of now. So everybody knows Jacques Cousteau. And Laurent Bellesta is developing things you can't believe. Why I'm here is quite easy. It's the second time the photographer I'm working with is not here. So they are always with the fish. And this is also the reason Laurent is not here. He is with the fish on a project in the Mediterranean Sea. Very interesting project. But I want to give you some ideas. I can't, and I don't want to tell you something about the beautiful pictures around us here, because they are speaking for themselves. They are wide-angle pictures. They are really very nice macro pictures. Laurent is doing everything what's related to the sea. So, but we are working with him since around 20 years. And the problem Laurent is facing is that he's going really very, very deep. So we were two steps ahead. We have been down to 70 to 100 meter. Most of the pictures of Laurent are taken down to 200 meters and 220 meters, which means 600 to 700 feet, which is really very, very deep. He was the first guy discovering the coelacanth. Is a very ancient fish. Everybody thought that it is not existing anymore. And he got aware of him in South Africa, I think 15 years ago. He stored our cameras because the dives, you have to imagine, are around 7 to 8 hours a dive. So he took some monitors with him on the cameras, not doing the films, but watching videos to get rid of the time. He was eating Nutella underwater.
Do you eat underwater?
With a straw, and you're facing really very challenging things. So, and I just want to tell you one project he did around 5 years ago. It was called the Gombessa project, which was done in the Mediterranean Sea. So he went down with a team of totally 4 people in the depth of 100 meter in a diving bell. That means this is a surface operated bell, which is they bring down to 100 meters. And then Laurent was diving from 100 meters down to 200 meters. And you have to imagine these 4 guys were in this bell, and I have been in this bell when they came back from the 28 days expedition. So, and the bell was around, I would say, 4 meters long, a diameter of 3 meters, 2.5 meters. So, and you have to imagine every diver had a supporter on board because they couldn't go out of the bell. They when they are in and the pressure is on, they have to stay 28 days in a very, very small thing. And so every diver had a supporter taking care of the tanks and all the things they needed. And Laurent had a guy who was taking care of the cameras. So he just always got the small cards to check if everything is okay. But he never could operate on the camera. So he had a Spanish guy up there who was just preparing the cameras all these 28 days. And I was there in Marseille when they came back from this expedition, and I could observe the last hours when the pressure was reduced, because the pressure has to be reduced around 2 days to come up again. So if there is and I would say medical problem, you're lost. And one thing on the side, when he was there, and you know, there is a lot of preparation, so you cannot shift it. So his wife was pregnant in the last days. And so when he was down in 200 meter, the wife, he got a daughter. And he saw the daughter the first time when he came up in Marseille. So this is only one of the stories. There are many around it, and Laurent is doing a great project at the moment. So I just wanted to give you a small idea. All these pictures here are great, but the challenges of this guy facing it down in 200 meters is unbelievable. So you have to be very fit, and you have to follow your passion, and he is very passionate. So I'm great that Laurent Bellesta is a client of us, and we try our best. And he is the only one who is pushing our equipment to the limits. But at the moment, everything is okay. Nothing was damaged. Everything is fine. So he got all his cards, bringing up these very beautiful and nice pictures. And I invite you all to have a look at the pictures, having this in your mind, what's going on. Thank you very much.
It's all about passion. It's really all about passion. And we need people like Harald and Laurent to show us the beauty, not only the beauty of the world, but to explore it and make this also this connection between science and photography. And because with both together, it becomes this value for our society. And I think this is also one of the reasons why I think that if this photography festival is a really successful format, because we open boundaries. We show where you can look to understand who we are and how we can continue to live. Yes, and now we go to the left. Corey Arnold is next. Great guy, great photographer, crazy man, doing crazy things. You remember yesterday's take on his images, and I'm looking for the man who wanted to speak about him. His name is Cyril Drouet. Monsieur Drouet. The French left us. Anyway, Corey Arnold is ready to explore the world in a different way. He's basically doing the same thing what Laurent Bellesta or Guenter Koeck does. They want to find out about the relationship between men, animals, and environment in general. And of course, animals are under pressure because man takes land. Man takes away a lot of land. We for our development of society, we think that we have the liberty to take. We just assume that and we do it. But fact is that out there is already someone before we came. And they are not, usually they are forced away. But in this picture, you see that they come back. They are not afraid of man. They are not attacking man per se. They just want to find their way how to survive. And I don't know how a bear thinks. Of course, I do not know. But for them a house or a tree? Is this something different? Or what is it? They are driven. Here comes the man. They are driven by their search for food, for survival, for finding out about the environment which works for themselves. And now I introduce again the speaker for Corey Arnold. This was it. Yeah, sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, yeah.
No, but no, he said everything, you know. But no, Corey Arnold is just a fantastic photographer. You know, he was a fisherman before, like his father. Yes, he was a fisherman like his father, but he's working a lot for National Geographic. And the interest, it's because, yes, concerning what you said about environmental issues, it's that the territory of the animals is reducing year after year because of the progress of human being. And so that's the reason why now you have some animals arriving in the cities. And it's the question of the harmony between animals, biodiversity, and human being. But it's completely crazy what he made during more than 4 years. And it was published in the National Geographic with the cover.
So we have some more meters to walk. Thank you, Cyril. And then it's Axelle DeRusse's turn to show us an incredible world. She's interested in the extremes of our world, the North Pole, the South Pole, and to discover the opportunities man still has to survive in these environments, how man is challenging this environment, of course, to do it for a reason, for exploitation, no matter, but the impact is controversial. It has an impact of man, has impact to the environment. Axelle, where are you? Ah, here you are. So welcome. Please welcome, give a hand to the beautiful. Can you imagine that she's going to freeze all the time? I mean, it's cold out there.
Yes.
You don't look like cold. You like warm.
Yes. No, I like cold.
Axelle DeRusse. Bravo!
Hello, I'm happy to be here with you. So this work is about how people live, the inhabitants lived in the northernmost town in the world, which is Longyearbyen in Svalbard, and the southernmost city in the south, which is Puerto Williams in Patagonia. It's a place which is beyond Ushuaia. And I wanted to compare how the people live in this remote area and in these extreme places. So at the beginning, it was really about global warming in these places. How could the inhabitants live with this global warming in the north? It is Longyearbyen is the place where the global warming is the faster in the world. But day after day, because I went a lot in these two places, I fell in love of these territories. And
First of all, how do I pronounce your family name correctly?
Noy.
No. Oh,
That's easy for German. It's
ladies and gentlemen, have you heard this voice? Could you speak a little longer?
I can speak. I mean, I intend
No,
to speak 45
no,
minutes.
No, well, dinner, you know.
Yeah, until the dinner.
Yeah, no, but your voice is amazing.
Thank you.
Well,
So
welcome,
I'm going to sing.
Monsieur Frederic Noy.
Bravo.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and good evening to everyone. Congratulations to everyone who managed to stay strong enough to last until now. So I applaud you. This story is about Udzungwa. Udzungwa is in Tanzania, and it's a story about eternity and daily life. Eternity, because this is the story of Udzungwa, which is a sanctuary of biodiversity where the mountains are 100 million years old. So it's virtually eternity. But around these places, which is very precious, you have 400,000 people living. And they are living like we are living, meaning they want to raise their family, their children, they want to feed everyone. So they are on the daily life. But then they are living around a very big area, which is the mountain, where you can't go because it's a sanctuary, it's a park, or it's national forest reserve. It's also, so then it's the place where eternity is touching the instant. How can eternity and daily life live together? It's also a story about us, Westerners, asking people in Africa to preserve the life when we couldn't do it on our own. I mean, I don't know how it is in Germany, but in French, they try to reintroduce wolves and bears, and it was a very, very big problem. Every time it's a very big problem. In the same time, the concept of conservation is asked to these people that you have to keep that forest, you have to keep that mountain because it's so old, so precious. But how can we ask them something that we are not able to do? That's also one layer of the story. So you will see, and also it's a magical place because in 1979, some researcher discovered a monkey that were never seen before. So, I mean, to discover fish or to discover insects is something that is understandable because insects are so tiny, or fish can be go very deep. But a monkey, a mammal, it was very rare. So they discovered that one, which is the red colobus. And then another one where you will see several photos, which is a Sanjay Mangabe. When you go there, you feel, okay, it's one more monkey. But no, it's something that were never seen before. But it's still living close to the people. So that's that story about humans who are trying to make a life, and then something where they can't go, which is a lost paradise, a lost world. That's why it's called the lost world of Uzungwa. Why the lost world? It means that before they could go there, and we are speaking about society who depend deeply on natural resources. That you have a field where you grow things that you will eat. You have wood in this forest in the mountains you can't go now, and you have wood that you need because 97% of your needs, cooking, getting warm during winter, is done with the wood. So if we forbid you to get that wood, it's really a problem. So then it's also photo about the solution that they are trying to find. Last word, it's in Tanzania. Tanzania is, to me, a special place because that's the country where I start my trip as photographer last century. So like 35 years ago, that's where I did my first photo. And it's very interesting because, I mean, interesting to me, but I did my first photo in a mountain which is facing this one, where people are living. And I saw how the mountain and the environment was destroyed. And now I add a new chapter thanks to Cyril, thanks to la Fondation Rocher, who helped me to found that project and to add a chapter about Tanzania. That's all I would like to say. Then you can just go around, and there is at the end some photo of Gombe, which was the reserve founded by Jane Goodall. Why is there this photo? Because it's the epilogue of that story. Udzungwa wants tourists to come, because if you give value to a places, then you can protect it easier. So their dream is to become Gombe. That's why it's the epilogue. The last thing is that there is 22 national parks in Tanzania, where millions of visitors are coming. It's more than 1.2 million. Only 8,000 people are coming here. So it means that it's really like a secret places that is given from one guy to another person. So I welcome you in the exhibition. Thank you very much.
Walk along and you watch and see and absorb and enjoy.
That photo is interesting because that's the paradise where there is the mountain. It's where people can't go anymore. But at the bottom, then you have sugarcane, rice, where they can grow. But from here, it's impossible to go. Although you have all these people living there. We have the mangabe, which is the monkey which was found in 1979. There is 81 rangers protecting this area. There is other places like with a forest reserve where there is 12 rangers and another zone where there is 3 rangers, meaning that people can still go there and steal wood or put some traps to catch the animal where it is illegal, but they don't have the choice to do so. For example, this is really in the middle of the Udzungwa. There is no more tree. Normally it's forbidden, but it means that poacher came, put down all the tree because when they are hunting, they could see what's going on. So now there is rangers there, but that's really the middle of Udzungwa. Of course, there is no roads, everything you have to walk there. So it was a project that I went there 3 times for more than 1 month and a half. So it was a 5 months project. And that's the border. There is a road along all this where the mountain is starting. That's Udzungwa and the primary forest. That's 1 million years. And that's the road. From here, people can live. That's railways built by the Chinese in 1972. So people are living here and can't go there. But then, as you see, it's 400,000 people living. So they need wood. So the everyday passing, just they cut more and more wood. So then it's the question is, how will it be in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? Because people are born here, stay there. And it's very big family. Still today they do, because it's next to the mountain, it's very rich because all the water is coming down. So agriculture is very rich. So they make sugarcane, they make rice, and it's sold to the capital, which is only 5 hours away, which at the scale of Tanzania is next door. So solution should be education about environment. But it's very tricky because all these kids, their own parents could go there. Now it's like forbidden. So you have to teach them why you can't go there and what to do. One of the things to do is either these ladies, for example, they make soap that they sell. The money that you can't get from the natural reserve, then you have to replace it with some activities. So that's one of the tiny problems is for this kind of people. They are traditional doctors. Traditional doctors, they fetch vegetables, leaves in certain places. Now they can't go anymore to the mountains. So to get the same plants to make his medicine, he has to go very, very far because he can't just fetch them anywhere. That's where they are trying to make a replacement for wood. So it's with rice waste to make artificial, but then they may do it for the 10 people of the group. So then you have to do it for 400,000 people, which is like very tough to do. But some hope. That was the eastern side of Udzungwa, which is very big. Then I went to the western side, where that's the primary forest. But on the western side, some people are growing, so they have cut the forest. And there is one big project who try to reconnect, to replant trees from the primary forest, to reconnect existing forest to the other side of the mountains. So it's a project that will last 30 years. They start 3 years ago. They will plant for 7 years. Then for 30 years, it will grow. And at the end, it might reconnect the whole forest because you can see how the forest has been cut. So every time they put a nursery and then they do campaign to replant everything. That's a carbon project. And from there, it's the epilogue and what they hope to do, which is Gombe. It's a company which is called UCL Udzungwa. The project is reformed by the company itself, which is UCL Udzungwa Corridor Limited. They are renting the field to the farmers. The farmers are not obliged to rent, but they are renting the field, so they get a salary, and they are employing hundreds of people from the area who are planting, sowing, doing the nursery. So then they are giving job to these people. And in 30 years, when the carbon credit will be sold, the owner still gets something. So it's It's a long term, and there is a fund which is funded by a American millionaire who only fund green project. So that project is paid for 30 years. So and they do a great job. For example, they pay the people until $100 a month when the salary in Tanzania will be $23 for someone working in hotel.
Thank you.
Yesterday enough, in my opinion. He's one of the really very, very important international documentary filmmakers. And basically, every movie he does, every documentary he does, makes it on the short list of the Oscars. Well, congratulations. Yes, congratulations. Not everyone achieves it. Many want to do that. And I hold a bet with him that this story, and I have not seen footage yet, I only know this very few images, but I really believe strongly that this could be the winner. Well, he did win already Sundance, so he has no real need to make it to the Oscars again, but it's nice to have it. So it's in our street, have an Oscar winner as a neighbor. It's more. And he has a producer you might know as well. His name is Leonardo DiCaprio. So in our street, this is the new Hollywood, so to speak. Please welcome Mr. Richard Latkani.
Thank you, Louis. I also want to welcome my wife, Anita Latkani, producer of the film, not just Leonardo DiCaprio, but Anita. We both have known Jane actually for 17 years. She's been with us all the lives of our daughters, who are now 17 and 19. So she's like a grandmother to us. Most of you have heard the story yesterday, so I'm not gonna go into this part. I'm gonna maybe focus more on the photography and how these pictures came to be. So basically, the project started at the end of 2022 when Jane, over a glass of whiskey, it's always a whiskey involved with Jane, she asked me if I would be interested in making one last film about her. And at that point, I was almost laughing it off, thinking, Jane, who needs another film on you? There's like 50 films. Your whole life there have been films. And she said, well, they haven't been really personal. And that was something that really caught my attention. But she had one big condition. One condition on making this film. She said, if we do this together, you have to do it by yourself, all alone. I don't want a film crew. I don't want a sound man. I don't want a producer. I don't want anybody around me but you, my friend Richie. And why don't we travel the world together? And it's kind of like a home movie, So that was super intriguing for me. And in a way, I felt as I would become her personal biographer. And knowing her so well, I knew this was going to be something very intimate, something special. But it was also the most exhausting year that Jane actually ever had, in her own words. This tour that we did around the world in her 90th birthday year took us to 27 countries. Imagine, she's 90 years old, and here she goes on a plane and travels and never stops, meets hundreds, if not thousands of people, has like speeches wherever she goes. Every day is like a 12-hour day, 14-hour day. It never stops. And here I was, really barely able to keep up with her. I was so exhausted doing my work, which was basically just documenting her and what she was doing. But I was looking at her and thinking, how do you do it? Where's this strength coming from? And what I realized, the secret of her energy are the people that she meets. They're like recharging her own battery. So when she's with people who love her and who get so much inspiration from her, she as well gets energy back. And she needs this energy to keep going, because the hope that people get when listening to her reflects back upon her in saying, I need to keep going because what I'm doing is giving me hope that I'm making a difference. So it was basically like a way of interconnecting with the world, and she could never stop. And I was always wondering, what would happen if she stopped, you know? And that's when it got scary. So if Jane would take a long break or a vacation, I mean, I was thinking she could probably die because she needs the energy to keep going. And in a way, it was very beautiful to see that also, that she really saw people. She was someone that even if you just meet her for a few seconds, she would look at you and she would feel you. She would see you. People would feel like she didn't just sign an autograph or talk to me for a few seconds. She actually gave me some wisdoms, a moment that would stay with me forever. I saw people breaking down in tears and she would just hug them. She would give them strength. And it was empowering. You know, it was something that was mesmerizing. And I was studying her like a student, looking at a master of how do you do this? You know, how do you give people so much hope and strength and wisdom, even when you just say a few words? So I tried to capture this in these photographs of how, you know, she would be exhausted. You will see pictures over there where she's literally breaking down. There's a photo on the far right where she's just slumping over on a couch, which was in Kathmandu. She literally collapsed. It was scary. I wasn't sure how she was going to make it from this moment to like a big stage. But in a way, she switches on. She takes her little cup with whiskey to stage. She would always call it her apple juice, just in case people were wondering, what is this drink? It looks like whiskey. No, it's apple juice. And she would go on stage and she would kind of live up to the moment and give one of the best speeches every time. It was always extraordinary. And that strength was remarkable. You know, in these images, I try to show the human being behind the strength. You know, there's personal moments. There's moments at her house in Bournemouth where she was rarely, you know, she was maybe 4 or 5 weeks per year at home. The rest of the time she was on the road. But she allowed me into her home and into her private space because she felt people needed to understand and know who she was. Not just this iconic person that you see on stage, but the human being that wouldn't stop. And when you see the film one day, you will also learn that she was actually not very wealthy. You know, she gave all her money to the institute. She lived in a very humble way with her sister in a house that was in a way disintegrating because she spent so little time there. It was like her home base, but in a way it also reflected herself, right? Like the body is slowly weakening, the spirit is still strong. So she would still keep going, pushing the body to its limits, but it didn't feel wrong. It felt like she was meant to do that. And when she finally passed away, it was peaceful in her sleep. And that was her dream, to just one day not wake up and it would be over. But she kept going until the last moment. And, you know, that's the journey that I tried to capture in a little time capsule. But, you know, the legacy must live on. And here in Austria, we have the Jane Goodall Institute. We have a representative here, Doris Schreivogel, right here. And they're running a program called Be Jane to keep her legacy alive, to keep it strong. It's all over the world we have these projects, but we're here in Vienna in Austria. And for only 95 euros per year, you can keep that legacy going and you can help invest into the future of the Jane Goodall Institute and all the extraordinary work around the world. They keep gyms safe. They introduce education to girls in Africa. You know, they work on reforestation in Africa, the program Takare, you know, take care to kind of rebuild forests and around especially Gombe and Kigoma, but also in other areas in Tanzania. They do a lot of work locally here with the schools, Roots and Shoots programs in schools across Austria. So if you can, please support them, become part of the Be Jane movement. There's some flyers, I think, that you can hand out. Here's one of them. You can take this home and just consider becoming part of it. And if you live in Vienna, Austria, in October, around the date of her birth. There's going to be the global meeting of the Jane Goodall Institutes from across the world in Vienna. There's going to be some special programs. So if you join, you will find out all about it. And you will also be able to meet the grandchildren of Jane who are keeping her legacy going. They live in Tanzania. They will come to Austria. They are now traveling the world to keep the spirit alive. So that's all I'm going to say. Enjoy the photos and be Jane. Thank you very much. And that's my dog, Yuki.
Doris, I think we need to have a correction. It's not in Vienna, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you
Yeah.
say what it has to be said about.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Richie, for introducing Jane to the audience. Yes, we're going to think about a big event on the 1st of October. It's the day of the death of Jane. And probably we are going to have a fundraising dinner. So if you're going to join the Be Jane program, you will learn all about our work and what we are doing. And we have special events for Be Jane as well. And on the other hand, we have this global work meeting in Baden from the 9th to the 13th of October. And Louis is going to make a special tour for our guests from all over the world. And I hope I'm going to see some of you by other events. And yes, as Richie say, Be Jane. Thanks.
So this is why I'm waiting for you, because I think it's an important message which comes from someone who is witnessing it, because it's his territory, his land, his life. Well, please welcome Mr. Supratim Bhattacharjee.
Yeah, hi everyone. And first of all, I want to thank Lois and Sylvia. And I always thank you, Cyril, always, as always. Yeah, I can't say that I'm from Sunderbans. My hometown is almost 30 kilometers from the Sunderbans. So that's a magical thing that, 30 kilometers means you can't define that, that you have been, Sunderbans has been suffering and I have been suffering too. And my born in Sunderbans started almost 30 years back because my relatives, they have been in Sunderbans. So that is why my connection when I was 10. So I started working in Sunderbans for almost 2 decades. And it has been a 2 decades of project, Actually, Sunderbans means it's a people, there are almost, 4.5 millions of people. And the next thing is that it is one of the largest delta region in the planet. And the main thing is that it has been divided between 2 countries, the 60% of in Bangladesh and the 40% of in India. And the Indian section is absolutely vulnerable. You can notice those images, because of the global warming, because of the global warming, because of the climate change. Look at the sea level rise. And those regions, those villages, they are from very poor family. And look at when the sea level comes, they have nothing to do. And I've been depicting those scenarios, those consequences for the last 2 decades. So what I understand over there, it's a high time for ourselves to raise our voice, because for burning fossil fuels, we know that I've been working on not only Sunderbans, I've been working on the climate change, like fossil fuels, the droughts, the floods, and each and every topic. So what I noticed that this is a high time to raise our voice, because otherwise we might lose our human existence in one day. So look at, this is the image I took on an island. It's called Moshoni Island. And look at the power of the waves. And if you go through with those images, you can find that people are suffering each and every day. That means when the cyclone happens, they don't have any shelter. They are losing each and every year. They are losing their shelters each and every year. But one thing is that it actually strikes me hard that they are resilient enough. Resilient means they can understand that how to stay there, because some of them, they when cyclone comes, some of them, they are losing each and everything. But what happens? They are resilient because they are building their new homes, and they are like nothing has been happened. They are like a easygoing attitude. But the thing is that if it is happened on a continuous basis, that means they can create their homes, that is fine, but they are losing their lands. So you know that India is already overpopulated country. So what would be about those 4.5 million people? And people are predicting that, within 50 years, there are some islands, they will be getting drowned completely. So that's challenging for ourselves. It's not only a problem for the Sundarbans, it's a problem for each and everywhere. That means now, Sundarban is experiencing right now, but you never know that after 10 years, after 15 years. So any country might face that kind of consequences. So can we move forward a bit so that I can explain? Yeah. Yeah. Look at that image. It's called Ghoramara Island. Earlier, the size of the island was almost 20 kilometers. Right now, due to the erosion, it has been reduced to 3.5 kilometers. Earlier, there was a population of 20,000. Right now, only 2,000, marginally 2,000 population. People are migrating. Yeah. They are leaving those islands. They are migrating from those islands to metros of India. That is why the conflict has been started in the metros, because those who were the original citizen of the metros, they are insecure. They are getting insecure right now because of the climate migration. And that one was that actually you can see those embankment. Earlier there, actually it has been taken inside a sea beach. There was a tea shop. People used to come, to spend their weekend times. And just it's like a normal day when I was there on that night. A storm surge, it swept out each and everything. The girl, she got a shop and she used to sell some snacks or tea. And right now, everything has been swept away. And the very next image we can find, it's also nearby sea beach. And that woman, she stays inside there. It's not home, I can say that. She's actually sells some snacks or like this, but she is in fear that it's a that means absolutely right example that how sea level is coming. And after I got the image, and which has not been here, and everything has been drowned. Yeah. So that was the image I took on the year of, I guess, 2017 or like this. So people are leaving that island. Each and everybody, that they are leaving the island. Because, there has been no embankment, everything has been drowned. Drowned means it's not a single day. That means slowly by slowly it is getting drowned. And the next one is that, and I was captured that image during the super cyclone, in the mid of the super cyclone, that actually when I was there, I was pretty shocked that it's a cyclonic weather, but nothing has been coming. But after that, it started like a hell, and that woman was shouting, for help. Actually, water started entering to her house, and she was screaming all the time. And the next one is that, everything has been flooded, and they are making the banana leaves boat, and they are navigating from here to there. Yeah, it was taken in the year of 2020. And right now, the sea has been almost, 1 kilometer. And earlier, it was almost 1 kilometer back. Right now, it has been, it has been grabbed for almost 1 kilometer. Everything has been, actually there was a shop, shop come house, they stay and they sell snacks. Actually, what happens that I see that is a sea beach. People used to come, and what they're doing actually, they are trying to protect a human shield to prevent those webs. And you may notice that somebody is laughing because they are being habituated to see that kind of environment. Each and every year they have been fighting with those webs, and they are trying. You can notice that they are creating a human shield. Yeah, to protect. Yeah, to protect that shop. Yeah, it's crazy. And look at this. Earlier there was a village. It was a village for extending about 2 kilometers. Right now, look at this. Yeah. It hasn't
Sweet
flooded.
water?
Yeah, sweet water means you can't say that sweet water. It because I tested. It's not. It's heavy. It's full of minerals. Full of salts. So there. That means you can say that how much resilience they are. That everything has been washed away, but still they're fighting. Still, there is very normal. Look at those images. You can feel that yes, nothing has been happened. It's very normal, very natural, and it's very natural to them. Yeah, that photograph was taken, during a super cyclone. I've covered almost last 20 years. I've covered almost 8 to 10 cyclones. There was a cyclone, and the tree has been uprooted, and the woman, look at her face, and she was crying like a hell, Look at her house, it's completely covered by the tree, and she was, trying hard, to save her belongings. And another one is that the big one, the lady, she was collecting some crabs from the river, and you'll be getting shocked to hear that region is dominated by estuarine crocodiles. And yeah. And that's the reality. That's the example of the resilience. People are talking about the resilience. Yeah, that's the reality. That's the example of the resilience. Yeah, that one, I took this almost 10 years back, I guess. And look at those women that they are about to ride that boat to collect drinking water from another island. This is something crazy. They have to cross the river, and the boat, that means it's you can get boats 1 hour of interval. That means they had to wait. Then when the right time, when the boat will come, then they'll move, then they'll collect water, then they will wait, then they'll come. Yeah, it's resilient. People are talking about the resiliency. Yeah, that's the example of the resiliency. It's tough. And that was taken almost 4 years back during super cyclone. And look at this. Actually, that one, that the house was belonging to that woman, and she was during the COVID period. You can notice her mask, and she was actually, it was completely unplanned. I was moving there, and she was tensed. She was about to lose her home.
Have you gone back to these places later?
Yeah, it's almost
It's
right
still
now.
there, or-
Because what happens that it was a good question. The thing is that each and every time it is normal, but when the cyclone happens, it changes the geography, which will never retreat back. Like that Ghodamara Island, it was 20 kilometers, and each and everything has been reduced. If you visit in the winter, it's a good place for tourism. But the thing is that during the super cyclones, it completely changes each and everything. Yeah. So that was taken almost 18 years back. The situation, why I'm depicting that, the situation has not been changed till now. That was taken in the year of 2021, and that was taken in the year of 2009. The same situation. We are all shouting about adaptation, that's fine, but look at that my images, they are speaking. That people, thousands of there was a big queue, and on the time the communication was so challenging. And I was quite immature because I just countering those issues, and the people are waiting for some food, some biscuits or some cookies or like this. Some NGOs or like this. Yeah. But the problem was that on the time, during that image, that period, there was no mobile networks in the Sundarbans. So it was extremely challenging to send. Yeah, there has been no coordination. Absolutely, there has been no connectivity. There are some islands, I could remember that they were drowned for 3 months. They were drowned for 3 months. Yeah. The government, has not been notified on the time because there has been no communication. It was crazy. But right now, the connectivity has been there. Right now, it's got a good connection. But the problem is that we are getting connections, but the cyclones are unstoppable. And that was the image, it's part of the resilient that people are bringing breaks, by, actually what happens that those regions are extremely poor, but they got a root connection with their homeland. So somebody, almost 50% of Sundarbans male members, they have been working in the southern India. So there has been no opportunities. And from there, they're generating money. And they're investing that money to build their own house in those islands. Yeah. It's a beautiful example of resilience. You look at these. Why the bricks are getting there? And that was the cyclone shelter, because right now, after the super cyclone, that image I took in the year 2009, after that, government was so proactive. They started those buildings, each and every island. But you'll be amazed to hear that not each and everybody during cyclones. Right now, I already said that the connectivity has been good. So, the government has been started monitoring when they got the alert. But the people, some people, they don't want to leave their home. Yeah. They want to see that what will be happened. It's crazy. Yeah, there was a wind power, but what happened that after countering several cyclones year after year, look at this. It was vanished. We are talking about the renewable energy. That's fine, but yeah. Yeah, that image I taken on that island, the 3 kilometers island. Right now, those solar panels are being distributed by the governments. Because of the cyclones, what happened? There has been no electricity. So some energy is needed to recharge their mobile phones or like this. So that is why each and everybody, they're not properly educated, but they can understand the reality of the renewable energy. Yeah, that at last, if we are out of power, then at least we can generate some energy. Yeah. And that one is that they're planting mangroves, but yeah, they're planting mangroves. That's fine, but the way they're planting each and every year, and if we compare with the sea level rise, because we have to provide some time to grow it up, at least 2 to 3 years, 4 years. So the intensity of the sea level rise, intensity of the erosion has been increasing day by day. So that's a positive picture. But what I've been noticing over there, it's not up to the mark. Yeah, it's not up to the mark. Yeah. because to protect those landscapes when it is getting some serious turbulence, it's extremely difficult. So do you have any kind of questions? Because I would love to hear some questions. Yeah. Yeah. How long?
How long does it take?
I said 2 years, 2 to 3 years, 4 years,
Yeah.
4 years. Yeah, max 3 to 4 years. Yeah. Yeah, 3 to 4 means that kind of size, you know. You can't expect that will be that much bigger. It won't be like this. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
And thank you for inviting me, honestly. It's an honor for me to present my work in front of. I've been working for almost 2 decades, and yeah. Once again, Luis, Sylvia, thank you. Thank you, Cyril.
Thank you very much. So there are two men who have something to say besides me, but I only want to refer to the most famous image ever taken, Bill Anderson's Earthrise over the moon. And it gave the world the first time the idea what fantastic privilege we have to live on Earth. And as Helmut Habersack yesterday already pointed out, it's mostly water, but very, 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 very little for us, unfortunately. But there's a second man here who promised to speak very short. He's the one who produced these fantastic images from the orbit. We asked NASA and ESA to give us views to the most important river systems in the world, never seen before. You see something which was never taken. And they have an institute in Salzburg, but maybe you tell quickly yourself what it is about. Welcome,
Yes.
Mr. Markus Eisel.
Thank you. So to put it really very short, we've seen incredible images all the day. And I think one thing which is special with our images is that we are certainly those who have the largest distance to the object. So we are taking our images from a distance from between 500 and 600 kilometers. And obviously, it's not the individual man or woman that is visible in the images, but it's the living space they're inhabiting. It's nature. It's it's cultivated land. Everything what man does with his environment. And what's very interesting from my point of view is that all these river systems in some way look like living organisms. You can compare them with human organs in some way, with lungs, with livers, and so on. You see here, for instance, just one example. This image that shows a mangrove forest in Kalimantan, where we have this interaction between the water coming from the river and the water coming from the sea with the tides. And the result are these patterns. This is just one example I wanted to show here. So, and it's really a pleasure and a privilege to be part of this exhibition and to be also part of this project from UNESCO. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. I don't want to repeat what I talked about yesterday evening, but I want to highlight what was said before, that we have a very fragile planet. You can see it here. Maybe it's unique, we don't know, but water is life. It's quite clear to us. It's a limited resource, and we need to look into the situation we have at the moment and what can we improve. And the idea of this book, and I'm thankful to Lois Lammerhuber, who was really very much active in the book writing and putting together the nice pictures of you, for example. The idea was to have a trilogy in this book, and you can still have a look at it. The first one is we shouldn't start with the bad things, we think. So we should have the beauty of this planet to be shown, and that's what you see here. I think when you go through, it's like living creatures. But also, if you look at the Nile here, Lois is very much like in this one on the Nile River. What you see is not the water too much, but the light. And it shows exactly that people can only live at this lifeline. I mean, you all know it, the pharaohs and so on. Don't want to go into this. Without this river, Egypt would not exist. But also without rivers, Austria and the people couldn't survive. So rivers are lifelines. They are the veins of this planet, transporting from the mountains to the sea. Sand also, which is not known too much. Sand beaches are not coming from the sea, they're coming from the mountains, which the rivers transport there. So rivers are quite fascinating creatures. Of course, I like them in a way, but I think most people like it. Also in the mythology, religion, rivers play always a big topic, you know. So it's kind of, you never can touch a river, put in the river, they say the finger in the same river twice, as we all know. So it's really like this. But at the same time, of course, we know that we changed this very fragile planet too much. This is not to be seen here around me, but if you go later in this direction, you see the bad stories. So the second part of this trilogy is the tragedy in a way. You know, we are part of this, polluting the rivers. They can be getting better with sewage plants, so we have hope to do that. We have on the other side climate change. We can do something there as well on the long run. We have to adapt as well, floods and droughts, and I talked about this before. We need energy, we need transport, but we need the fish as well. The issue is everyone wants something of the same river, but we have only one Danube, we have only one Nile, we have only one Congo, we have only one Murray-Darling, we have only one Congo River, Mississippi. Everyone wants to transport energy. We want to get protected against floods. We don't want droughts, and so we want to have the fish. This doesn't work out until we realize we have to put the river in the center of our thinking, at least scientifically. So what we do is just to reverse it, look at the river and put all the demands in the same weight. So ecology should have the same weight like energy in that sense. But what is really surprising is that we don't have any report on a global scale which tells us the conditions and development of those rivers in one paper. If I ask you, what is the change of the Niger River in Africa? What is the change of the Mekong in Asia? Simple questions. Do we have more water or less water? And that's why we started 14 years ago also with UNESCO as a chair for integrated river research and management. Don't get paid for this, by the way. It's the water science program in Paris. And we managed to get then a program which is called World's Largest Rivers Initiatives, doing a conference every 3 years next year in Africa again, with one aim, which is maybe too much. Let's see. We want to work out the conditions, the status of 300 rivers, the big ones, large rivers, but not only by size, but also importance. So from the Amazon to Australia, and from the north to the south. So this is a very big ambition. I can't do it myself, so we work together in the so-called water family, consisting of these pairs of centers and so on. We are quite proud, of course, that we get a new center to Vienna, to Austria, not far away from here. It starts this year, hopefully, that the government of Austria signs with UNESCO contract, that we start a small, tiny, I would say, with a few people at the beginning, institute, what is called Category 2 Center, in order to work this out. And then we need all of you, and all scientists, from biologists to engineers, to support this process. What did we do so far to finish off? We worked only at 3 rivers. So out of 300, I have to admit it's not too much. Of course, we worked on our home river, the Danube, we worked on the Niger in Africa, and we worked on the Mekong. And the same picture, which is really surprising. Over time, we get less water, sometimes 10% last 40 years, sometimes 15% less water, sometimes even more. And it doesn't work out. Why? Because, for example, in the Niger Basin, we have now 120 million people, and 40 years ago it was 40 million people. So more people, less water. This equation does not really work out. And we need, with climate change, more irrigation. We want to have electricity in Africa, it's quite clear. And also at the Danube, at the Rhine River, the same picture. It's really strange. The next example, the deltas, they are also sinking. Why? Because the sand beaches are eaten up by the sea. Why? Because we have a minus of sand coming from the catchment, from the source to the sea. Also at the Danube, 24 meters per year loss of land for Romania. The same in the Netherlands, the same in the Upper Adria. They do sand mining artificially to protect, let's say, the shoreline. That's what we have to do. Millions of euros, billions, I would say, on a global scale to manage these river systems. Instead of using the river as a natural way to transport this, we do it by machines. And this is not necessary. So we need to have solutions based on the facts, based on science, but we can only do it if we work with all the people together. That's why we call it citizen science. People take pictures, we collect them, we see the changes. We want to get the knowledge with co-creation, co-design. So that's our hope. So like yesterday said, we cannot say everything is dead and everything dies. We need to do something. This is also jobs. This is work. This is hope for the future. That's what we try to do. That's what science can contribute. We are normal people like everyone else, just trying to support this and to get a blue, hopeful future for our river systems. We do it also in a fundamental research. If anyone wants to come to Vienna, not far away, we just opened a few years ago a new river lab, it's called, where we divert the Danube with 10 cubic meters per second without bumping into the Danube Canal, and where we can do one-to-one scale experiments. Also with people, when it comes to flood, when are people washed away and die, at which water depth, at which flow velocity. So we do some experiments. If anyone wants to join, I will let Lois to know when we do the experiment. So you are invited maybe to be part of that, let's say, adventure. At any rate, to finish off, I think it's really important to say it's not good what we do now with the water and rivers also. It's not really good, but we can change it. And if we change it, nature comes back quite fast, also fish, unless we let them die out. Then it's too late. But I think we should do it. And that's the invitation to finish off, that please come join us in this. We will have a chance to get guided tours, to invite you to follow us in this project. And hopefully in a few years, we have a global perspective of getting forward to a positive future for all of us. Thank you very much.
Of the Robert Capa Museum in Budapest, and he was crazy enough to say immediately, yes, let's do it. And of course, and what do we next year was the next question. He promised Kertész. So you'd go, which is not a bad choice, by the way. But now we are dealing with one of the greatest ever. It's hard on a day to say when you have Don McCullin and Robert Capa in one swing. Hey, what is this about? Well, in this case, Istvan will tell us about Robert's achievements and his incredible life as a photographer, and also the impact which he has until now. Thank you for being so hard to stay along at that long, and have now Istvan on in your ears. Please.
So hello everybody, I'm István Virágvölgy. It's a hard name. It means Stefan Blumenthal or Stephen Flower Valley in English and German. So you can call me Stephen or Stefan if you like. I'm here on behalf of the Capa Center from Budapest, and we are really delighted to be cooperating with the festival. Thank you, Lois. And you see a small selection of Capa's photographs. So there are, I don't know if you know, there are 3 big master collections of Capa's pictures, around 1,000 each. One is at the ICP in New York, one in Tokyo, and one in Budapest. And maybe not all of you know why Budapest, because in 1913, Robert Capa, under the name of Endre Friedman, originally was born in Budapest, and he spent the first 18 years of his life there in the Hungarian capital. So that's where he started to take photographs as well. And obviously, I don't need to introduce him that a lot, but maybe to give you context, because Lois already told that Kertész is coming up next year. So there are really big names in photo history who have Hungarian origins, and they knew each other, most of them. So Brassai, László Moholy-Nagy, Martin Munkácsy, Robert Capa, André Kertész, they all knew each other. They actually supported each other very much, and they all started off from Budapest. They were mostly leftist thinkers with Jewish origins, and they were forced to flee the country, and then later on flee in other countries as well, like Capa first. Actually, he spent a short time in Vienna, and then he moved to Berlin, and then to Paris, and then he spent time in London as well, but ended up in the US at the end, and became a US citizen as well. So I think it's always important that the time when you are living, it really tells you what to do. So I think with Capa, it's important to say that he was friends with avant-garde artists in Budapest. So he was very much involved with the painters and graphic designers of the time. And I think this kind of thinking you can see in the innovative ways he was photographing. And it was also important that small cameras were introduced, and he could actually do what he was always telling, that you have to go close enough. So he was able to go close enough. I think you can see the Trotsky image, which is very important in Capa's work, because that's the first assignment he did in 1932 in Copenhagen. So he entered this Trotsky speech, and it was forbidden to take pictures, and he was able to take this picture because there was a small camera called Leica that he could use. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been possible. So that was also important, that in these times he already had these kind of techniques. And I think why Capa is important is, one, he was one of the, if not the most famous and best war photographers of all time. But I think maybe most importantly that he was an innovator. I think that's what we should and we can learn from him. So he was an innovator in so many ways. It's so a few examples. His name. So he knew that brand was important, and he created his own brand together with his German girlfriend Gerda Taro. So they created in Paris this name, Robert Capa, who was this never existed American photographer, and they sold the images of Endre Friedman under the name of Robert Capa, and they could double the revenue with this trick. And then Robert Capa became Robert Capa. So then he ended up being this made-up person. So I think that was very innovative, and that was very, very Robert Capa-like, how he operated and how he created these myths around himself already when he was alive, already when he was writing slightly out of focus this novel that he wrote about himself, but he always says that he's telling something like the truth, but he's always adding something, and so that's he understood branding very well, I would say. Very important innovation was Magnum Photos, so a cooperative of photographers who retain the rights. So they sell the rights of the images, but only for one appearance to a magazine, and then they can sell it later on. I think this was a very, very important thing to do, although it was in his life, he died in 1954, it was not a successful setup yet. So in the 60s and 70s, it became a big success, but he could already foresee that magazines will be the big platform who will have enough money to support photographers who sell their photographic rights this way. To talk about, yeah, so there is a lot of controversy around Capa. There are a lot of images, like one of the most famous one here in 1936 in September. Actually, this is the 90th anniversary in September coming up, when he photographed this picture in the Spanish Civil War, and a lot of people dispute whether this was a setup or not. I think what is important is that he could create icons. He could create iconic images, and it's always hard whether that's a good news, because then you can say that you're aestheticizing suffering and you are living off of somebody else's suffering, as Don McCullin just pointed out. But on the other hand, I think that's a really big gift for a photographer if you can put in so much feeling into one frame, and you can actually change a little bit in the other person through that image, and to not use that gift, to not give voice to the people to not use the camera as a weapon, as Capa said, for example, in Spain, would also be a big shame, I would say. it's really interesting to see all the images. The whole career, and that's I think also very important, is 22 years. So we just seen Don talking about his 70-year career. So what we know as Robert Capa was created in 2 decades. So that's from the first to the last image that he took. That's all he was given, this time frame. So I think if you take this into consideration, that is even more impressive what he achieved. And what we can't see here, but it really adds a lot to him being an innovator, is color photography. So he was one of the first professional photographers to embrace color photography once it was available. And he had big disputes within Magnum Photos with his fellow photographers who said that, oh no, color photography was cheap. It will be never used, only with tourists and kitsch, and serious photography has to be black and white. And Robert Capa right away disputed that a lot, and he tried to push his peers as well to use color photography more. And actually color photography became really big, and that was part of Magnum Photo's success in the 70s, when you had all these big, mostly US and France and UK-based magazines who were printing in color and were powerful enough to be able to pay photographers properly. And then television came, and that all went away slowly. Anyway, but Capa could see that coming. And you can see, to mention the last image he took at the end of the row. So he was photographing in 5 big conflicts, and the last one was Indochina, which is now today Vietnam. And actually he was filling in for another live photographer who was going on vacation, and went into Indochina to take for a few weeks up the job of the other colleague being on holiday. And that's where he stepped on a landmine, and that's where he died. So I think what we can and should take away is the innovation. So probably he would be the first to explore whatever new techniques there are, and he would not shy away from risking, even making bad decisions, but to innovate and try to find new ways in photography. So I think that's what Robert Capa stands for. And you have to see Capa's images here now, but once this exhibition is over, we are all nicely invite you to Budapest, to the Robert Capa Center, where you will have a permanent Capa exhibition and another 500 square meters of temporary exhibition space where we show contemporary photography. Thank you very much.
Hi, thank you for coming. It's almost over. So, yes, I know, but yes, fantastic position. Thank you.
I mean, this is really what you do here is demonstrating love for photography, passion for photography, and really that we can rock the world with photography if we continue to do it in this intensity. I like intensity.
Yeah, me too. The veterans of the day, thank you so much.
And congratulations for everybody.
Yes, yes. And only two words, thank you. Few sentences. My work is about Japan, Eden. I'm French photographer, Francois Fontain, and I invite you as a meditation, with colorful pictures and poetic pictures also, and timeless pictures. So I took all this series. There is a part here and 4 big photographies over there. And do you know at what time they switch on the light in the park? Or if you want to see, you can go closer. And I took all these photos with Leica camera in analogic, And I was last year, I won an award, my first one. And I was so happy in environment photography. So it was like a award. So I want to say a special thanks to Gaëlle Guenguenet. She's not here, but she works with the Leica camera. And I want also to thank, because this is the last exhibition, to all of the organization and Lois and Sylvia and Florence Drouet and Cyril Drouet and all the team. Thank you and enjoy your dinner.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart. You are fantastic. You are photography. You are my world. Thank you so much. I love you, truly. And now dinner.